So when did you leave the police force?
So it was August 2021. Almost, we're a little over
wow.
exactly a year now.
Was that decision hard for you?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was super hard.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I was providing for my family. It was I was working for the government as steady a paycheck as you could ever expect.
Yeah.
Good, you know, super good job security, good benefits. So it was scary. It was scary to leave it. Yeah.
How did your wife take that?
You know, my wife is a champ. She saw what I was doing, that I was waking up 4 hours before work, going to train, working a 10-hour day, and then going to train again, and just dragging myself home, collapsing, passing out, and going to do it all again in the morning. And so she saw what I was doing. And I had been doing that for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then so when I kind of, like, I didn't just say, I'm just going to be a fighter. Like, I had 5 professional fights. I was 5-0. I kind of had an idea that I was good and was going to make something of it. So when I approached her about, hey, I want to leave, I want to stop being a cop.
Yeah.
You know, she was a champ. She was like, all right, well, what's the plan? What are we going to do? There was no like, no, you can't do that, or no, we need the money. It was just, what are the next steps then?
That's so cool. I have a very supportive wife as well, and I think that's so fucking valuable. Because if you have the opposite of that in your life, not only does it not help you, it just drags you down. A non-supportive wife, I'm sure you have too. I've been in some fucked up relationships where you just have a girl nagging, yapping in your ear. And to have someone in your corner saying, let's do this together, I believe in you, how powerful is that?
That is literally everything. People think it's cheesy and they don't believe me when I say, like, my biggest skill, my biggest benefit is the relationship that I have with my wife. When I decided to be a full-time fighter, it was, the way I approached it was like starting a business, a startup business. It wasn't just, I love fighting, I want to be a fighter, whatever happens, but I'm going to fight. No, I had to secure investors. I had to secure a partner, which was my wife, who all believed in the plan and the steps we were going to take to get this small business going. All small businesses lose money their first year of operation. Like, if you think about your fighting career like that, you'll have much more success than just thinking, it's my dream, I love it, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Very good point. So take me back from the very beginning of your athletic career. So I know that you were on the Houston Texans and then you went into rugby, but I mean, that in and of itself, to go from NFL to rugby to MMA, I mean, you have to be a freak athlete. There's no doubt about that. And I've seen you move at your weight. You are a freak athlete. But how did you get started in sports? Did you start at a very young age?
Yes. So I'm a little bit older than most guys who are on their second UFC fight. You know, I grew up in the 90s. We didn't have internet. My dad was a Samoan immigrant. Like, we had dial-up came like 8 years later. We didn't even have dial-up internet. So when you got off of school, you went and played a sport. Yeah. There was no option. There was no, I'm just going to sit around the house and watch TV or whatever. Yeah. So I played a sport from the time I could walk. Like, my oldest memory, being 5 years old, was playing sports. I played a sport every season, football to basketball to track to rugby. Literally never stopped playing a sport my entire life growing up. And then, you know, got to high school. Football was the way. It was a way for me to pay for college. It was a way for me to, like, make a career, make a little bit more money than my family was used to. So that's just where we went from there.
And then you were being recruited out of high school, I assume. And then you went into college. You played college football. Then you went into the NFL.
Yep.
And so how long were you in the NFL for?
It was technically 2 seasons, but really only 1 actual season.
Were you in the practice squad?
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, you went straight into rugby?
So when I got cut from the Texans, I bounced around the league a little bit. And like I said, I was signed to the Arizona Cardinals for less than a week. And so technically I was also on the Cardinals, but I'd never talk about that. But then I spent 2 years just trying to get back into the league. going to camps. I played arena football for a year, which was the worst decision of my life.
Why?
You know, the money was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't great, but it was just not. I was wanted to play as an avenue to get back to the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't play. It's a different game.
It's a different game,
They
right?
play a different style of football, and so all the tape that I was generating, all the reps that I was getting, was not playing the football that they play in the NFL. So when I would give them my tape, these coaches would just be like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. This is not what we need someone to do.
Yeah. What position did you play?
So in arena football or in
The NFL.
So in college, I was what's called an H-back. It's like a running back, tight end hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily like catching the ball, running the ball, carrying the ball. Then when I went to the NFL, they moved me to just straight up fullback, which I tell people all the time, fullback's a condition. It's not a position. You are running back, but you're not fast enough, so you have to play fullback.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't good. Like, I'll be honest, it's taken me a long time to get to this point, but I wasn't a good enough fullback to play in the NFL. And I hadn't played special teams since I was peewee. Like here in Colorado, starters don't play special teams. So I hadn't played special teams in forever. Trying to make an NFL roster playing special teams, it didn't go well for me.
Yeah. So then after the dream, quote unquote, was over with the NFL, walk me through the next steps of your life, of your sports career.
So yeah, I'm here in Colorado training, trying to get back into the NFL. My dad, like I said, is a Samoan immigrant. Rugby is the national sport of Samoa. And Colorado just happens to have a team in the first American professional rugby league. They're playing well. It's in Glendale, Colorado, the Glendale Raptors. My brother's trying out for the team, so I just figure I might as well. You know, I need money, stay in shape. I'll go out and try out. I do love rugby. You know, obviously make the team, have success, and from there on, I'm playing professional rugby. I played professional rugby for 3 or 4 years, and I'm on the bench of the national team, the Team USA, for 1 season, and yeah, just become a rugby player at that point.
Is that being cut out, Ian?
It's
out of focus.
There we go.
The guy who remodeled my house was Samoan, and he played rugby in Colorado.
Oh,
His
yeah.
name's AJ.
AJ?
Do you know him? He played
don't.
professional rugby.
Oh. It
AJ
doesn't
Anani.
The name doesn't stick out.
No.
But
Huh. I mean, how many rugby teams can there be here?
Well, there's only one professional one, so he might have played after me, though. I'm not saying he was a liar. He might have played
No,
after
because he
me.
was. We moved in this house in August of 2021, and he had
Okay.
just played games.
Okay, so I stopped playing in 2017.
Oh,
That's when
okay,
I had
okay,
stopped
okay.
playing
Yeah, yeah.
professional rugby. Yeah.
And then I know from experience. Are you Tongan or Samoan? Samoan.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my wife's from Salt Lake City. And there's a lot of Tongan Mormons.
Yeah.
And AJ was Samoan Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that? Because this is kind of off topic, but how
Yeah.
did that come into play?
So it's Mormons are very big. They do missionary work, and I don't know how long back they sent missionaries to Samoa, and were one of the first people to set down church roots there, and it just was picked up by the Samoan people. My parents are Mormon. I was raised Mormon. It's a very popular religion amongst Polynesians.
So you don't drink, no coffee, none of that?
So that's how I grew up.
Uh-huh.
I still maintain not drinking alcohol. It doesn't have anything to do with religion for me. It's a performance thing for me. I do drink coffee a lot, unfortunately, but yeah, I wouldn't call myself a Mormon right now, but I live the values mostly because they're good for you.
Great
you
values.
know?
Great
Yeah.
people, man. Yeah. So when we were dating, I would fly out to Salt Lake, and her family was part of the church as well. And just amazing people. It's just so nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But so now that you got into MMA fairly late. How old were you when you started training?
So I was 30. I was playing professional rugby. I had a daughter. and just needed more money. That's about all it was. So that's when I got into the police force. I had to leave rugby, become a cop, start making more money, and I just wanted to keep doing something athletic. I didn't have any plans to be in the UFC. I wasn't like, I'm gonna now be a professional fighter.
Right.
I've always just been a fan of MMA. I'm a fan of the sport. So when it was kind of just up to me what I wanted to do for fun, I was like, I want to learn how to fight. I want to learn how to be a fighter. So I started with jiu-jitsu, and it's just total luck, random luck. It just happened to be where Elevation Fight Team trained at.
So it's the Hammer that we go to. Okay.
And it was
Cody
like,
teaching?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And big guys are a commodity in this sport.
I was telling him that. I was like, these guys, like, because he was asking, did we see, because we went to sparring about a month ago and we didn't see you. And I said, it's probably because heavyweights, there's only maybe a couple of them at the team. And I saw Curtis there, but he wasn't sparring. So I figured he's probably one of your training partners.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. So like Curtis is on the team. He's, number 3 in the world, and he has nobody to spar. And I'm just a recreational dude just there having fun, and they just see me and they're like, hey man, can you come spar with Curtis?
Yeah.
We need a body for him. And like I make money fighting in a cage. I'm a little crazy. I'm not all up there, but I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And go in, and he just beats the living hell out of me. But I'm like, all right, I like this. I want to do this. So I spend a long time just being Curtis's training partner. I'm learning jiu-jitsu. I'm learning striking. I'm doing my own training, but I'm really just Curtis's training partner. Then after like a year, I'm like, I'm getting beat up every day. Can I try going to go fight somebody else, beating somebody else up? And then that's kind of when I roll into being an actual fighter myself. And so that was after 2 years of training, a little bit less than 2 years.
Did you take amateur fights or just professional fights right off the bat?
So my 2 coaches are Cody Donovan and then Vinny Lopez, and they are the best, and they really care about me as a person. So they made me take 5 amateur fights.
Nice.
I could have rolled straight into pro, and I probably would have had success, but it wouldn't have been the success that I did have. And that was because I was able to get the nerves out of just walking to the cage. I knew I was going to win these amateur fights. I didn't really even need to train. I trained with Curtis and Alistair over him. No one on the local scene was going to beat me.
Right.
But you still get nervous walking to the cage and then having to get your hands wrapped. So they made me do that 5 times before I turned pro. And at the time, I was like, you guys are wasting my time. I want to fight pro.
Yeah.
But sitting here right now, that was a huge part of my development, and I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of what goes into being a good coach is those kind of decisions. Saying, let's just take the slow pace. There's going to be dividends that will be paid out because of the experience that you're receiving. You may not think that, these 5 easy fights are doing anything for you, but I think that's what goes into being a really good coach and caring for your athletes. When Cody was on this podcast, I mean, it came through. You could tell the guy cares for his athletes. So I think you've got a badass corner. Vinny's supposed to come on this podcast. We're just having scheduling conflicts. So you've had these 5 amateur fights, and then what next? What happened after? Did you go straight into pro fights and then to the tough, or how did that all come about?
Yeah, so we have 4 amateur fights, and I'm trying to turn pro. And we can't get anyone to fight me. So I end up taking an extra amateur fight on like literally less than a day's notice, 18 hours, and just absolutely wrecked the guy.
At heavyweight?
This was at heavyweight.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not doing another amateur fight. Find me a pro fight. And then so the LFA, Legacy Fighting Alliance, they're like the premier regional promotion in the
Ed
US.
Suarez, I think, runs it.
Yeah. They offered me a fight at light heavyweight. I'd never cut before. I'd never made light heavyweight before.
What do you walk around at? Or what did you? I'm sure you're probably thicker now, but what did you walk around at then?
Back then, I was walking around 230, 235. I'm like 245 right now, but, not super small.
That's a big cut, man. So, okay.
So they offered me a fight at light heavyweight, and, it all worked out. So I can say now, like, they brought me in to lose. The guy was like 4-1, a guy that they're trying to build his name. And the LFA was great to me. They helped me out a lot. But this first fight, they're like, listen, man, you want to fight? Here you go. Let's see how bad
What was the guy's
really
name?
Fight. His name was Zac Pauga.
Okay.
He fights out of Utah. And he's good. He's had fights since me and won. I think he's won most of his fights since he fought me. But yeah, go in, cut weight, win the fight, and kind of put my name out there. And after that, after people see that, I can't get a pro fight. We go like 6-7 months with no fights because people basically don't want to lose.
Yeah, they've got footage on you. Yeah.
And at this point, Cody and Vinny are doing everything for me. I don't have a manager, and I didn't want a manager, basically. That's just not something I wanted to spend money on at that point in my career.
Makes sense.
And Cody and Vinny are they're doing things for me that your coach isn't supposed to do. They're trying to find matchups. They're calling promoters and trying to get me fights, and we just can't get a fight. Even a bad fight, like this one was technically a bad fight. We just can't get one. And so I end up signing with a management team, Paradigm Sports, and they start getting the fights rolling in. So that's when I start getting more fights back to back quickly. I win 2 more fights on LFA, and then Cage Warriors comes to the U.S. They're the biggest organization outside the UFC in the UK. Conor McGregor fought for them. Michael Bisping fought for them. They're a huge organization. They come to the U.S. I get on their cards. Supposed to fight for their belt, but it never really works out. Never happens.
Was that at light heavy, or were you now at heavy?
Light heavy.
Okay.
All these fights, all my pro fights until I go on Ultimate Fighter are at light heavyweight.
Okay.
So I win my 2 Cage Warrior fights. And after the second one, so I'm 5-0, that's when I decide I'm going to make a run for this. I'm going to quit my job. I beat a guy who was just in the UFC. My 5th fight was against Marcus Perez. He had a crazy record, like 18-7 or something. He had 7 fights in the UFC, a real legit fighter, and I beat him. So I'm like, okay, I'm real.
Yeah.
This is real. I'm going to do this, quit my job, and then it's like crickets. We don't hear anything for a few months, and I'm pulling my hair out thinking, oh my God, I just ruined everything. I just destroyed my family's life. And then the Ultimate Fighter, they air the promo that the next season is at heavyweight. So I talk to my coaches, I talk to my manager, and just say, hey, this is my shot. This is the way in. It's going to be hard. It's at a weight class up, but I'm going to do this. Yeah. And they both agree and, go on the show, do a reality show for 6 weeks. It was crazy. It was
Let's talk about it. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, so I'm not a Hollywood guy. Yeah. Hollywood's a weird thing,
Was it seems scripted.
So
parts of it, at least.
It's not what I would say scripted, but there will be times that you'll literally just walking into the room. I would walk into the room and they'd be like, no, we didn't like that. Walk out and walk back in. And I'd be like, so it's not scripted.
I see.
But now I'm walked out and I'm like trying to walk the way that I think they want me to walk.
Right.
And so they never said to me say this, but they would be like, so-and-so said that you're not a very good wrestler. What do you have an answer? Do you think something about that? And you're like, oh, they think that? Well, F them, all that stuff. So
I see.
They're really good at getting it out of you, pulling what they want out of you, and then it's a pressure cooker. You have no phone, no TV, no internet.
Really?
Yeah, and you're just
for
locked
6
in a
weeks.
House. 6 weeks. No
How do you
phone.
talk to your wife?
I couldn't. They gave me one call to her after I won the first fight on the show, so I couldn't talk to her. Couldn't talk to my kids. They try and drive you crazy. They provide as much alcohol as anybody wants. That's always fully stocked.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah. they know what they're doing. But, it was crazy just living in the house. There's no doors in the house. Your bedroom doesn't have a door, so you can't hide from anything. Everyone can see everyone at all times.
And how many people are on the
There's 16 people on the show. There was 8 female flyweights and 8 heavyweights.
And was this coached by Pena and...
Amanda Nunes and Juliana.
How were they?
They were great. I didn't have much interaction with Nunez because I was picked by Juliana, but she was amazing. She cared about us a lot, for it being just a show and her just seeing us for 6 weeks. She gave us her everything, and anything we needed, she would try and get it for us. And she has since, multiple people from the team have just gone out and like lived with her and trained with her because she really, considers all of us her teammates that she picked and made.
Nice.
So it was great getting to know her and work with her and her coaching staff.
Nice. So you go through the 6 weeks. You lose in the finals to Muhammad Usman.
Yep.
I watched that fight before you came in for the second time. You were doing really well. I felt like he just caught you with that crazy left hook. But you're so incredibly athletic for the heavyweight division. Do you consider maybe going back down to light heavyweight, or do you want to stay at heavy?
So my vision for what I'm going to do with my career is at light heavy. I do think I can win the championship, be the champion of the world at light heavyweight. And that's my goal. The only way you can do this sport is if you think you're going to be the best. I don't know how you could do what this sport takes and just be like,
I agree with you,
I'm going to
man.
be just an average guy. And I think I could have success at heavyweight and do well, but I've been lucky enough to train with the best in the world, Curtis, Alistair. And I just know that those guys are super difficult fights for me, and it's because of the size.
Yeah,
and there's nothing it's not like I can get more skillful to overcome it. It's the size. I do like a lot of the fights at heavyweight and the lower, like the guys outside the top 15, but the future for me is light heavyweight.
So are you going to get a nutritionist and just try to maintain a low level of body fat to make the cut easy? Because you're 240, you said right now?
No, so I know how to make it. Like I said, I've made it 5 times before. I'm just being happy right now and like living my life and still getting to be a fighter. But I know I don't need a nutritionist. And the UFC will actually offers nutritionists for people that need it, and like fight week they'll provide you all the food for your cut and stuff like that. I can do it. It's a mental thing for me. I like food is a very big part of my
Samoan,
life.
Man. You guys love your food.
Food is a very big part of my life, and I've just been living it up right now. But today, so this is my 2nd week back to full training since my fight with Muhammad. And today I just was literally like, I've got to get back down to light heavyweight because I just don't feel as fast. I don't feel as good at this weight as I did when I was a light heavyweight.
Yeah. So if the UFC called and said, we want you to fight in, not that you would, I'm just saying in 8 weeks, do you think you can make the weight, or do you need,
8 weeks. So that is what I need.
8
That is one of the difficulties of fighting at light heavyweight is I couldn't take short notice fights. But if they said 8 weeks, can you be ready? Absolutely.
So how does that work? Does Paradigm just handle everything for you, to booking the fight, getting you sponsors, and they just take a flat fee off the top?
Yeah. So they take a percentage, and they handle the negotiation of my contract, sponsors, certain sponsors I can go out, and if there's a company that I really am interested in, and I've done this with several companies, if it's something I'm interested in, I will reach out and try and talk to them myself, because I think it means more coming from me that I actually use their product, I actually like their product.
Yeah.
But if it's the reverse, a company wants me to represent them, then they have to go through my management.
I see. I still have an office in Orange County, and it was right next to the Paradigms. So I remember reaching out to Paradigm back in like 2017. I emailed Audi and a whole bunch of people, never heard back. So Paradigm always just has this bad taste in my mouth. But I know that they're one of the best premier agencies in the world. Who's your person there?
My person there is David Fish.
David Fish. Okay, cool. Do you ever communicate with Audi or anything?
I do. Audie's great. He is, every manager to be successful has to be a little bit scummy.
Yeah.
They gotta be a little bit.
Of course.
That's part of the game.
Yeah.
But part of the reason I didn't want a manager. I didn't want to work with any of these dudes who were just absolute scumbags or had like 90 athletes on their roster and just cycled through them and just gave them bad matchups.
Yeah.
And when Paradigm reached out to me through David, you know, I looked up Audie, I looked up everyone, and I was like, okay, these guys are legit, and they do have integrity, and that means more to me than how much money you can get me up front. Is, can I trust you with that money? Can I trust you with these negotiations? And, you know, when I signed with them, Audie was in the meeting, reached out to me, talked to me, and that went a long way for me as well.
For sure. Yeah. Nice. So what is let's just say 12, 24 months down the line, what does that look like for you? Are you trying to recover after that last fight, get the body right, then get a fight? Do you want to just jump right back in immediately?
So I jumped right back into recovery right after. We luckily, like I said, our team is the best in the world, and we do everything right. It wasn't just I'm going to go back to spar and get tough and all this stuff.
Right.
Got to make sure that I had no lingering issues from the knockout. Like, it's my first time being knocked out. It sucked. I want to get that taste out of my mouth. But I went right back into a vestibular rehab program just to make sure that everything was the exact same after the knockout as it was before. And
Smart.
I'm about a week away from finishing that program, being cleared by, you know, smart brain surgeons, actual brain surgeons, to go back to contact. So I haven't been sparring since then. Like I said, 2 weeks ago, I started doing full training, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, grappling. Once I get cleared, I'll start sparring. My hope is to fight in January.
Okay.
Fight in January, and then 12 months from now, hopefully have 3 UFC fights, 3 more UFC fights under my belt, 3 wins. And you know, people are talking about top 15 opponents.
Nice. So it's funny because Muhammad Usman's brother, Kamaru Usman, got that head kick KO. Then he went on the Rogan podcast, which I listened to, and it sounded like he wanted to get back in very soon. And I could sense in Rogan's tone, although he didn't say it specifically, he was trying to nudge Kamaru to take time, let the brain recover. It seems like you're doing that. You're doing what needs to be done, which I think is very important. So once the brain is healed, go back to sparring immediately, or are you going to give it some time, get your body right?
So I definitely got to be in shape. It'll take my plan is to return to sparring. I'll be cleared next week, but my plan is to return to sparring in November.
Okay.
You know? Just make sure
Get
I'm
a
in
month.
shape. Everything's tight. Like, losing a fight, especially for me and like Kamaru only has 1 loss and, you know, 20 wins. This was my first loss ever. The competitor in you wants to get back in there, but that's just not the smart thing to do to have a long career. Yeah. You can exercise this vestibular system, it's not your brain, but the tubes around your brain that keep it in place. That can be exercised and repaired, but it can also be damaged and further damaged. So you got to make sure you're repairing it and holding back this need to get back in and prove, no, I'm a man, I'm a tough guy. That knockout was a mistake. Right. You know?
You mentioned Elevation Fight Team. I think it is the best team in the world just because I have had access to some other big teams. I used to train at a Black House. I've seen AKA. I've gone to Sanford. I've seen these big gyms, although I haven't had access to them like I have at Elevation. But the people at Elevation, and you mentioned Cody and Vinny, they just care for their athletes, and there's great athletes there. But you being a bigger guy, other than Curtis, do you also find it hard to find people that want to spar you?
So we are lucky at Elevation Fight Team. So we are one of the best teams in the world. We are definitely the best heavyweight team in the world.
Oh, really?
And it's because of bodies. We have me, we have Curtis. We had Alistair Overeem until just recently when he moved on to kickboxing. But we also have a stable of 4 young heavyweights that also are coming up. So we have 6 to 7 heavyweights every single day of training, and you won't find that anywhere on the planet.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember it was always hard for heavyweights to find training partners. Well, that's good that you have that. And stuffing takedowns from Kurt. Well, maybe attempting to stuff takedowns from Curtis. I mean, you probably have tremendous takedown defense. What would you consider your style to be?
So my style, like a lot of people like to talk about how I have no combat sports background, wasn't a boxer, wasn't a wrestler, but I think that's my benefit. My style is MMA.
Mm-hmm.
My style is being a good fighter.
Mm-hmm.
There's no place, like if this was a video game, right, and that you had grappling 1 out of 10, striking 1 out of 10. I'm not below a 7 on any of them. I may not be a 10 on any of them, but my well-rounded fighting ability is how I win fights.
For sure. What do you prefer? Like, I love striking just because it's just what I started.
Yeah.
I love jiu-jitsu, but not as much as I love striking. What about you?
Yeah, I love striking. I think it's in my blood being Samoan. I love throwing left hooks and knocking people out. I've been to Thailand, been there to train. I got very close with Alistair when he's here. I'm actually going to Holland to watch his fight next week. So I do love to strike. I love to punch people in the face and knock them out. But I accept and I recognize that grappling is the superior art form. If we're going to just put them up against each other, we've seen how it goes. So if you want to be a striker, it's on you to make sure your grappling defense is even above the level of a guy who's just a good grappler.
And I was noticing you've got a beautiful left jab to the body, left jab up top, and that just depletes the cardio of the guy that you're fighting against. Is that something that you always work on, or did you just develop that, or did you find openings in that fight against Muhammad to throw those? Because they were beautiful shots.
So that actually came from working with Curtis. He is the best fighter in the world. He's so good. And it was just like, man, I have to find a way to score on this guy and not get taken down. Because if you get any type of, you start winning the striking battle, he's just going to take 100%. You down. So that jab to the body, like you said, draining their gas tank, hitting them to the body, making them think about it. It's also scoring to the judges, but I'm also getting low. So if you want to shoot on me, I'm already in a position to defend the takedown.
Nice. Curtis is actually going to come on next Friday. I'm really excited about that. And then we have Razak.
Oh, Razak?
Razak.
Yeah.
Cody mentioned that he's got a really cool story. I'm interested to hear that, and Curtis as well. But I also think Curtis, he's in a very interesting spot right now because on his Instagram, he said he's going to be patient. Yeah. And I think that is the smartest move, because why take a fight when you have a potential title shot right there, or at least one more to a title shot? But no one wants to fucking fight that guy. He's got the same issues that you have.
Yeah. And it's the weird thing about fighting is it's not just sports, it's sports entertainment. And Curtis's so the Aspinall fight was weird.
Yeah.
His fight against
the shorter heavyweight,
he
knocked him out, right?
Yeah. That was super entertaining and people loved it. If there's been any knock against him, he's such a good wrestler that he can make every fight a 100% win for him and just be boring.
Yeah.
And that's, when they pay us half your paycheck if you lose, why would you not ever just secure the win?
I completely agree. And it's unfortunate because there's so many casuals, and I used to be one of them. They want to see, fists being thrown, but you gotta win. That's the ultimate thing. And I think once the sport grows, people will start to understand, as I have, how beautiful grappling can be, and how if you don't want to be taken down and being held down, learn how to get the fuck up. And if you can't, then you're just not the better fighter.
Exactly.
And I hope Curtis sticks to what he's good at, and I'm sure he's got the best coaches. But I can also see how the fans chirping and saying, you're a boring fighter. It's no matter how thick-skinned you are, it's going to get to you. But I also think because he's such a good wrestler, it opens up his hands. So he feints really nicely. He did that against, I think it was against Overeem, right? Where he just kept feigning.
Overeem, he knocked out Junior Dos Santos.
Yeah.
Curtis has amazing hands. He just doesn't need to use them.
Yeah.
And he's getting to the point where he will use them, but he doesn't need to. And sitting here right now, I wish I would have wrestled Muhammad instead of trying to make the fight exciting and go for a highlight reel knockout. I wish I would have just wrestled him, got a boring decision, got double my pay, came home the winner of the Ultimate Fighter. but you live and learn.
Right.
So it's the catch-22.
Yeah.
You can make the fans happy and lose, or I mean, not always lose, but risk losing.
Yeah.
Or you can secure the win and then try from there to please the fans. And that's what Curtis has been doing. And I think he's been doing it amazing. He's gotten so much better, but fans just have they have a weird memory. They only remember the bad things. No one remembers that he's knocked out the best strikers in the heavyweight history. Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem, Curtis Blazes knocked them out. But people just
viciously
just remember the Volkov fight where he secured a win by laying on him for 5 rounds.
Yeah. I think that he's doing the right thing. I think that you're doing the right thing as well. And you guys training with each other is super valuable. So in a perfect world, you fight January, you fight 2 more times in 2023, and then you're fighting, top 15 guys. If all goes as planned, 2024 potentially fighting for that title that you so want.
Yeah, so that's what I foresee. End of 2024, people are talking about me fighting for the light heavyweight belt.
Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is, and we just talked about it, is kind of the fans, the entertainment component. I think perfect person to bring into this conversation would be someone from Elevation that I think very well, Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen is one of my favorite fighters, and he's completely against all the bullshit that comes around MMA, all the clout chasing and all that shit. And his most recent performance, before in the interviews, he was saying, I just want to get so good that my skills kind of speak for yourselves. However, as a businessman, a business owner, I know how the revenue is generated. Are you tempted to kind of be outlandish and do what it takes to get the clout in order for you potentially to make more money through sponsors? Or do you just say, no, fuck all that, I'm just going to be true to myself and just let my skills do the talking?
Well, the big thing is that you have to be true to whoever you actually are. Corey is a true, pure martial artist. And in my opinion, he's going to sell more staying true to that. And the people will gravitate towards him saying, I'm not chasing the clout. If he were to all of a sudden one day wake up and just start talking with an Irish accent and making fun of people and stuff, that wouldn't do it. For me personally, like, if you know me outside of this, I like to talk shit. I'm an antagonizer. It's just what I do. It's the guys in the gym know this. And so for me, it's about letting that be exposed as well. It's about being yourself turned up to 11, whatever that is. And I'm trying to, talk with Curtis about that a little bit more, just letting people get to know him. The mistake that people have been making is trying to be Conor McGregor. Yes, he had an amazing run. He's made more money doing this than anyone else, but that's because he acted like himself.
Yeah.
He didn't act like somebody else.
Very true.
You just have to be yourself, but crank it up and let people see it. Being reserved and being shy or I'm just being humble is not the way to make money. And this sport is so brutal. You better make some money if you're going to be a part of it.
Well, the one caveat to that would be a guy like Colby Covington, because he, from what I've been exposed to, is a fairly humble, quiet guy, but he was going to get cut because of his fighting style, which I thought was, you got to beat the guy, but he was a boring fighter, and he changed his persona, and now he's making the big bucks, although his fighting style has become more exciting. But that would be kind of the one person I could point at and say it worked for him.
So people, I hear this a lot about how Colby's actually a really good guy. And to be fair, I like his shtick. He's doing it and he's making money. But you can't act the way that he's acting unless you got a little bit of it in you.
Yeah,
and he found it and he blew it up.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying. Find that little piece of you that people can relate with, even if they're bad people or weird people. Find that piece and blow it up. That's how you make money outside of just your fight purse.
Yeah. And he definitely blew it up, but he also got, a lot of hate, and that has to weigh on you as well. I know that Jorge Masvidal thing was pretty crazy. And just keeping up that shtick has to weigh on you after a while, right? Because everyone fucking hates you.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
MMA fans are the worst.
Yeah.
And I can say this. This is the third professional sport I've been a part of. MMA fans are the absolute worst.
Yeah.
There's no, if the Browns go 0-16 this year, there's still going to be guys in the stadium wearing Browns jerseys.
Yep.
They may not be happy, but they'll be there supporting. I lost the first fight in my entire career as a fighter, and people are telling me I'm horrible, never fight again, all this stuff. MMA fans are just the worst.
Fickle, yeah. But this sport, I signed up for an amateur fight. I broke my rib in training camp, so I'd never actually have had a fight. But what you say resonates really well with me, being at the heart of sport, because I played competitive basketball and soccer growing up. And I saw the top echelon. I saw NBA players. I was, training with NBA players. I saw what it took to be that good. Obviously, it's a lot of height and athleticism and skill, but it doesn't require mental fortitude like MMA has.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember, getting my ass kicked in sparring and saying, fuck, do I really want to do this? And it takes a certain type of person to continue going back to the gym, continue to get your ass kicked. Yeah. And I think the casual sports fans of MMA, they don't understand that. And that's why I feel that this sport is so new that in 25 years from now, because I think it's only been around for 25 years.
Yeah.
So in the next 25 years, this sport will overtake every other sport just because the fans will be more knowledgeable about how crazy it is, how much it takes physically and mentally from you as a fighter. It's not just a couple broken bones and some soreness. There's so much more that goes into being a fighter. You have to be able to deal with losses or deal with just getting your ass kicked. You may not lose a professional fight, but you have to get your ass kicked daily for a long period of time in order to get good. There's no way around that. And so I always say this, and I'll say it again on the podcast, there's no sport like MMA. Nothing even comes close. You've played football and you've played professional, or you've fought professionally. You are probably the one of the very few people on this planet that can speak to that with experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I always say, team sports are about what you're good at. If you have a great 3-point shot, if you're super fast, you can join a team sport and they'll find a way for you to do what you're good at. They'll plug you into the right position. MMA is about what you're bad at. If you have if your cardio is not good, if you can't wrestle or if you can't strike, people are going to find out about it and it's going to show up.
Mm-hmm. What is your current training schedule and what does a camp look like for you?
So for me, things don't really change in and out of camp other than the intensity of the individual practices.
Okay.
But I train twice a day, 6 days a week.
What times?
So I train in the strength and conditioning in the morning.
Okay.
I go at 8 o'clock.
Is that at Lando or do you just do it on your own?
So I go to Vital Strength and Vital Training Systems.
Okay.
It's in Wheat Ridge. It's where the heavyweights go. That's
okay.
Vinny owns that gym. And me, Curtis, and the other heavyweights, that's where we primarily train.
Okay. And then what are these sessions like? Are they compound movements? Are you doing explosive workouts or is it a mixture of?
So it's a mixture and that part is what is determined by in camp, out of camp.
I see. Okay.
Being out of camp as a heavyweight is really the only time that you can focus on getting bigger and stronger. So, compound movements, heavy deadlifts, high reps, things like that. And then always working on the muscles that maybe get neglected in striking. We spend a lot of time hunched over in this turtle shell. So you have to spend time bringing yourself out of it, strengthening these back muscles. But in camp, it's about performing on fight night. It's about ramping up. It's about speed and power and getting yourself to be able to perform on fight night. And then every afternoon, we have a team practice. Mondays is wrestling. Tuesdays is sparring. Wednesdays is wrestling again. Thursdays is striking. Fridays is MMA sparring. And then Saturdays is jiu-jitsu.
So today's Thursday. So you have a training session tonight striking?
So I just completed the training session, and then I came here off that.
Oh, okay.
Session.
Okay. Very cool. And then in camp, you're doing pretty much everything, but just at a higher output, just trying to get your cardio down.
Yeah. So I would say I'm trying to make everything mimic a fight. So it's like high explosive rounds for 15 to 25 minutes, as opposed to out of camp. I'll do 5 to 8 rounds at sparring in an out of camp, but in camp, I'm going to bust my ass for 3 rounds because that's all you get in the fight.
Yeah. And then I'm always curious about like bringing in training partners. So I remember you said when you were first starting, you were a heavyweight, Curtis brought you in. Mm-hmm. Are you also bringing in bodies, or do you have enough at elevation?
So right now, we're super fortunate that we have what we need. Curtis will still, because, you know, where he's at in the sport and just how much he makes per camp, if he's fighting, so when he fought Dawkins, that was his last fight, he brought in some boxers. I'm a good striker, but I'm not a boxer, you know, and Dawkins considered himself good hands, a boxer. Yeah. So Curtis brought in real boxers to train against. And I'm super fortunate that that's not something that I have to deal with. It's more if you fight somebody with a unique style. If somebody fights Wonder Boy, right?
Yeah, you need a karate guy.
None of us are karate guys. So you got to bring in someone that can mimic Wonder Boy.
I think Woodley did that for his camps. Mm-hmm. I'm always curious, like, how much do you pay a random guy to just let you pretty much beat on him?
So it depends on the guy. I think it's anywhere between $100 and $1,000 a week, but it's knowing that I'm going to try and knock you out. I'm paying you for your health, because I'm going to try and knock you out of practice.
That's such a good way to say.
Because Curtis can't do that to me. Yeah. If he knocks me out, then we're not ever training again.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think that understanding and sparring is something I am fearful of. Like, because I'm not a fighter, but I know how to strike. So when I do go to sparring, I always just tell people, like, hey, man, I'm here to just have fun.
Yeah.
You know, please don't hurt me. And it's usually always, you know, reciprocated, but there's always that one guy.
Yeah, there's always
who
that one guy.
Just like, and so when I first moved, I'm from California. So when I first moved to Denver, I was out of shape. I had a back issue. Hired Rich Marqueco to come train me. And then 6 months, dropped 20 pounds, felt like, you know, I could spar again. So I went to sparring. First time sparring in 2.5 years. I was really scared. First round, I go with this short amateur black guy. You may have seen him. Always has like the different color hair.
Yeah,
he was really good. He hit me with like a push kick that kind of hurt, but it was whatever. Then the next round, this very scary looking guy. He looks like Jorge Masvidal. He's like, "You want to go?" I'm like, "Sure." And then Rich comes up, and to protect me, he's like, "No, you're not gonna go with this guy." I'm like, "Dude, I'm fine. You know, I'm warm." He's like, okay, turns to the other guy and says, "Go easy on him. He's not a fighter." We start fighting, and he's just not throwing anything, and I'm not throwing anything, right? Because you know, I'm at a point in my like fighting career where it's always throw how hard you want to get hit.
Yeah,
so
that's a good way to look at it.
I don't want to throw hard, right? But I'm just kind of throwing this jab out, and I throw a really beautiful, crisp jab, and it lands clean. And he just walks through it, and I'm like, fuck. I know what's coming now. So now I'm just trying to get on my bike and move, and he walks me down, throws a nasty body shot. I go, like, kind of bend down. Then it throws an overhand right, and I'm just covering up, thinking, dude, I got, like, a wife and kids. Like, I'm not a fighter. Please stop. But I'm not going to say it out loud. Rich comes and grabs him and says, like, easy, easy. I don't blame the guy, because I come to find out, like, he was training for a fight, and he was on Gamebred's fight series or whatever. And just that whole experience made me understand, like, sparring, you always have to talk to the person before, like, please, let's just respect each other. I'm sure you guys deal with that way more as well.
Absolutely. And it's the worst part about sparring. It's the worst part because you just never know. Is this guy having a bad day today and he wants to take it out on me? Like, you just never know. And I'm, like we've said earlier on the podcast, I'm a little bit crazy. If you want to get down, I'll get down. We'll fight. The reason me and Alistair have became close friends because Alistair doesn't spar. He fights. He fights.
Yeah.
He comes in every day and fights.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm down. If that's what you want to do, all right, I'll fight. Just let me know. What I don't like is when people like are playing, and then they see an opening. Like I think we're playing, they see an opening,
Heavy
and
shot.
then they come hard.
I hate that. So is that what happened? You guys, you thought it was going to be a sparring session, then he fought you, and then you were like, "Fuck this, I'm fighting you."
Well, so no, the first time with Alistair, right? I'm a fan, right? I'm this dude at the top. Like he's my friend now, so I don't say it, but this is my favorite fighter of all time.
Yeah,
and he's in the gym. I'm a nobody. I have 0 fights, but I'm part of the heavyweight crew. They're like, all right, get in there, spar Alistair. And so I get in. I'm hyping myself up, and he just opens up with a switch kick that like hits me to the body, but almost knocks me down.
Yeah.
And so I just know. I'm like, all
okay,
right,
we're doing this. Yeah.
And like I said, I appreciate that. I appreciate you letting me know from the get-go how it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just come out slugging. Then okay, you want to go? So me and Alistair fight. We fight.
Yeah.
0 total fights. Alistair has 95.
Yeah, yeah.
And we just fight. And then afterwards, he gets my number. He's like, hey man, I want to train with you. You like to come in and train the way that I train. So let's do it. And so we became really close, became good friends, trained a lot over the time that he was here. And just the combination of training with him and Curtis is basically what made my game. Is training with Curtis and Alistair for,
probably one of the best heavyweight strikers and heavyweight wrestlers you can find.
Yeah. So before my amateur debut, it's my first fight ever as an amateur. Where you do your last Friday, they do Shark Tank, right? You get a fresh guy every round who's sitting there resting, waiting, and you get a fresh guy every round. And my Shark Tank is Curtis, Alistair, Curtis, and just like I said, I have 0 fights, and I'm doing this against the best guys in the world, and I'm just dying, just get absolutely mauled. I leave that Friday like, man, do I even want to take this fight? I'm not good at this sport. I don't know what to do. Go out there the next week, knock that guy out in 7 seconds.
Nice.
And I'm like,
I'm
not. Don't make me do that again. Have me fight these guys. Like, have me fight.
But
these
that
guys.
probably like subconsciously built your confidence because you're thinking, I'm going up against the best guys in the world. Although you were probably losing, but you're not going to fight that caliber in your actual fight. So that was amazing.
It did after the fight.
After
the fight, I was like, oh, that's why we did it. We want it to be harder than the fight. Yeah. But at the time, I'm just like, why do you hate me, Cody? Why are you doing this to me?
Question about the love of the sport. So I grew up very similar to you. Sports was my whole life, right? I loved sports, but I didn't love sports as much as I love MMA now. There's something about it. I don't know what it is. It's probably just the primal component of 2 people trying to kill each other and the technical savvy that's involved with that. But do you also find yourself loving maybe MMA more than you did NFL or rugby at one point? Or do you put the sports all in one category and you love them all?
No, I absolutely love MMA and fighting way more than any other sport, right? If I showed up here tonight and you had like your shin guards and gloves and were like, you want to get a few rounds in before I go? I'd be like, sure, that sounds awesome. If I came and you had on a pair of football pads, was like, hey, I got my producer, you want to do some Oklahoma drills first? I would leave. I would say absolutely not. MMA is just amazing. It's the facet of martial arts that people who've been doing martial arts have understood for a long time, and now it's kind of getting dressed up as a sport in MMA. But there's also this thing that we're like losing the more that society gets, the more modern and advanced we get. We lose this ability to roughhouse. Like if you watch dogs play, they wrestle. They don't hurt each other. They nip each other. But it's this ability to roughhouse without getting my feelings hurt or without getting my body hurt that I truly think we all need. We all feel this need inside of us to just grab someone else and roll around every once in a while.
Yeah. Are your kids in jiu-jitsu?
My daughter is in jiu-jitsu. She's a 4-stripe gray belt.
Nice.
My son, we're trying to get him potty trained because you can't do jiu-jitsu until you're potty trained. Once he's potty trained.
How old is your son?
He's 2.
2. Okay. Yeah. My daughter is 3.5. I told Cody when he was here that once they move into the new facility, I'm going to start training again myself. I'm not sure I'll spar. Maybe I will. My wife hates when I spar because I always come home beat up. I have to deal with this now, you know. But I love it, man. I know I'm gonna love jiu-jitsu. My plan is January 2nd or 3rd when you guys move into Hama. I'm gonna do 6 months of jiu-jitsu only. I'm gonna see how my body feels, and then I may consider taking a fight. But we'll see how my body feels because I'm 37. I sit in that chair all day. I've got fucked up back, fucked up knees. And I'm just not a professional athlete, so it's like I don't need to stay in shape, so it's hard for me to be motivated. But I always told myself I would take one fight before it's too late, and I'm getting there. I'm getting to the age where it's like it's getting almost very close to being too late to start fighting.
Well, and listen, you can get everything you need from Hama, from the practice mats. You don't ever need to get in there if you want to do it to check a box and so you can feel something for yourself. But everything that martial arts has to provide you is in the training room. It's not in the competition.
Yeah, but the check box is what I want. Yeah. I just want to get the nerves.
Yeah.
So what happened was I was training consistently for about 3-4 years, strictly kickboxing. I would do jiu-jitsu here and there, but it was mostly kickboxing. I got to a point where I was like fucking up most people who were at my level. So I told my coach, I was like, get me a fight. It took us like 4 or 5 months. We got an amateur fight, 8-week camp, like second week of the camp, last day of sparring or last round of sparring, spinning back kick, broke my rib. My teammate ended up filling in for me, and he fought the guy that I was going to fight. And I always fucked up my teammate.
Yeah.
So when they fought, it made me realize like I would have won that fight. I mean, who knows? But I'm pretty sure I would have won the fight. I'm a very logical and realist. And I just know my skills were superior than that guy. So after watching that, it even motivated me more to want to fight. But then injury after injury, then COVID. And it's just like, I don't know if it ever will come, but I really do want it to. So we'll see. Maybe one day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's no... you can take a fight without saying, "Oh, I need to get to the UFC."
Of course,
you can always take a fight. You could do a smoker.
Yeah,
I don't know if I think Ham.
Yeah,
Ham
Rich wanted
smokers.
to do me I was gonna do a smoker, and then my back went out again, so I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah,
but hopefully one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good. I'll come watch.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna come watch all your fights too, man. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast, man. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm excited to see what the next couple years have in store for you. I am a big fan of your athleticism and your mental fortitude. So best of luck, man. And hopefully you'll come back on the podcast once you have a couple more fights.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll absolutely be back.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.